Hi, I'm Ron Waddell. I'm a Senior Partner Solutions Architect here at AWS.
Hi, I'm Rahul Kochar, also Senior Solution Architect here at AWS.
Rahul, when we talk about modern application architectures, the word container comes up very frequently. Can you tell me some of the benefits of why customers are leveraging containers or want to migrate to containers today?
Sure, Ron. Containers definitely the way companies, enterprises, and startups are now building application. It provides the lowest common denominator of portability that you can run the workload across any environment. So portability is one of the important feature, and the fact that each container represents, and containers can represent a set of microservices. So it is definitely on the rise towards building the modern application where developers have autonomy of building their own microservices on top of containers. And so developer productivity goes up. The fact that container is not a full virtual machine, the fact that it's only subset of the code and the important dependencies, that makes that application that much more smaller in form factor, saves a lot of IT infrastructure. And the fact that you could do it at scale deployment, day in and out, and they can scale up and down, means that the infrastructure can sustain the demands of the application and the developer productivity that we are looking at.
So, I mean, it sounds like a great idea to be able to simplify the developer software lifecycle and also drive down costs and increase scale and and shorten time to market for our customers.
All done through standard CI/CD process, which is how the teams and the organizations are now looking to do a software supply chain.
So that sounds great for customers today building new greenfield applications. Let's talk about, say, a customer who has an old Windows server, say Windows 2008 on-premises, or even in physical form factor, or perhaps has some older Linux virtual machines running and they have some legacy apps, say IIS or .NET for their Windows.
Sure.
Or even some Java applications running on their Linux virtual machines. How are they going to start to be able to take advantage of that modern container architecture without necessarily having the resources on premises today that understand that old legacy code base?
Sure. So, Ron, this is where App2Container can really be the tool of the choice to help customers in their modernization journey. The way it happens is we first deploy a small agent of App2C on every server that you want with running with an application where you want to start that application transformation. That application, that agent connects to the AWS account of the customer, and you would set it up to configure exactly like how you would do the CDK, which means you provided a role, you provided the connectivity, the account IDs, and so that and the region where you want that virtual machine and the application running in the virtual machine to be containerized to. So you define the source and then the destination. So imagine in this instance we've got the source, which is that on-prem virtual machine, which by the way could be an operating system that is in AWS too. So it's not on-prem. It could be a very good fuel to that two-step migration.
Okay.
Yeah, where the customers brought the VM as an EC2. Now they want to do the second step to modernize. Yeah.
Excellent. So they can continue to simplify even if this is a supported modern operating system, but perhaps an IIS or .NET application that they want to containerize.
Yep.
Now, so the agent on the source, what's it going to do to the source to interrogate that source and really build the container?
Sure. So now that you have installed the agent and initialized the agent to establish that connectivity, it's actually then going to build what is we call as an inventory of the application. So for example, in this instance, it's going to start understanding it's a Windows server, it's got IIS, it's got .NET. It's then going to start building what we call as like a analysis of the application. So it's going to start reading the metadata of the application. It's going to bring together the dependencies of all the different modules that you're using, and then it's then going to generate a Docker file. At that point, you could now change the behavior of the application. A very good example is, say you want to change the TCP port, which was running 80 to 443.
Excellent.
Or you were running multiple different functionalities and now you want to split them as separate containers, right? In the future state. So this is where once it does the initialization, it'll create the artifact, it'll create the Docker file, and then you can make those changes, as I mentioned, like TCP or a heap size. Yeah. So it'll take that Docker file, which is again, that can be modified by the teams and the developers. And then once you approve that Docker file, it'll then do what is called as a build, and it'll use our CI/CD tools to push that code as a Docker file into a code deploy pipeline, which will then deploy it either on EKS, in this instance in EKS, but it could be EKS, ECS, Fargate, or AppRunner.
And this Docker image file that was created during this process, it can be stored in a registry just like any traditional Docker file or container that's been created modern.
It's then going to understand, okay, I have this. So then in an instance of Windows, it'll understand, oh, I need a base operating system, which is going to be the base container image. That will be the runtime. It'll also identify I need a few additional dependencies, and then it'll also add the code, what will be the application code. One thing I also want to mention is running App2Container does not need access to any of the underlying code, which means you have an application which is running, it'll take a snapshot of the running application and bring it over. So if the customers are running those legacy apps, those commercial, all the shelf software on top of IIS, they can come in as is. They don't need access to the proprietary code that made that application up.
That sounds extremely beneficial to customers, like I said earlier, that have maybe older applications where they no longer have access to the source code but need to maintain the functionality for any number of business or technical reasons. One question I had is if you have a server, like say in this window, that has IIS and .NET, but those are actually operating as separate applications, will the App2Container actually make this, say, Container 1 and Container 2 and go up and into the cloud?
It can do that. This is where the Docker file, and the manifest that it generates can be tweaked, modernized, updated for the future state deployment. So what you could do is you could create, if those were separate, in fact, if there were multiple applications that were running across multiple servers, they could be part of one container, or one server which was running multiple applications. For example, a lot of customers ran multiple websites on top of one IIS server, and you wanted to have them as separate servers, separate containers, you could do that.
It sounds like a great way to really take some of these older applications and move them into a modern application architecture.
With standard CI/CD process.
I mean, it sounds great, and I am excited to see this in the field and help our customers really take advantage of the ability to containerize their applications to simplify their migration into the cloud.
I also should mention that App2Container is a free tool from Amazon. So customers and our partners can really download it and get started with it now.
Well, Rahul, thank you for walking us through this. I think this is a great tool to help our customers and our partners migrate to the cloud and efficient and take advantage of some of those modern application architectures.
Yeah, thank you.